What is going on, beautiful people of the world? My name is Garrett Wolf, and I am the host of the #1 podcast for people who are trying to go from saggy flabs to six-pack abs. I've built my body over the last 8 years, and in the last 3 years, I've helped hundreds of online clients shred unwanted fat and embody the best version of themselves. Now, let's jump right into today's show. What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Alpha Movement Podcast. This is the #1 show for people who are trying to go from saggy flabs to six-pack abs, all without giving up the most enjoyable aspects of their life. In today's episode, I want to talk to you guys about how your labels create the liability. All right, so there's a couple of nuances that go into this topic. I actually just came up with this topic today. Usually I think about the podcast episode, the night before, or I have a bunch written down that I can maybe pull from, but this jumps to the top of the list of importance for me because this is something that I just realized this morning while listening to an ebook. It was pretty crazy. It was kind of like an epiphany of sorts, if you will. So I want to talk to you guys about that, about what I learned, about what I heard while listening to this ebook, and about how your labels literally create your liability. And so, they create your reality because whatever you label yourself as is whatever you're going to experience. All right, guys. So you already know the deal. If at any point in this episode you enjoy what I have to say or you take some value from this podcast, would you please screenshot my face? Share it to Instagram stories, tag me at _Garrett Wolf, and I will reshare it to my story and send you a free gift. Other than that, guys, nuance of the day is that your labels create your liability. And liability meaning you are held liable to live in accordance to your labels. All right. Quite literally, your labels are what create your liability. So let me tell you where this idea came from. Also, I hope the fucking camera is in focus because yesterday's podcast, the entire thing was recorded out of focus. And I'm looking at it right now. It looks like it's in focus, but it did look like this same thing yesterday. And it was out of focus the entire video. So I apologize for that, guys. I really do hope this podcast is in focus. But other than that, I want to tell you about this nuance that I was hearing this morning when I was listening to an ebook called Gym Launch Secrets by Alex Hormozi, the legendary salesman, right? And so I've been listening to all these ebooks, right? Because one thing I want to do is I want to be able to read 52 books in a year. Now, me myself, I've always hated reading. I've always hated reading. I've never really enjoyed reading. And I used to have this limiting belief that I don't really retain a lot of the information that I read on a book. Now, I could easily use that and create a label for myself, calling myself a bad reader, right? Or I could say I'm a bad reader or I have bad reading comprehension. Notice how none of my terminology was used that way. I said I typically used to dislike reading, or I am usually one that doesn't really enjoy reading too much. Not that I am a bad reader, not that I am this, not that I am that, because I don't like to label myself with things because I believe that humans are all malleable. We can all be changed. We can all literally be taken from an extreme negative to an extreme positive based on your belief. And I also believe that the strongest force in the human psychology is to live in accordance or to live in parallel with the person that you believe you are. So you live in parallel with the beliefs that you have about yourself. That's the strongest force in the human psychology, in the human mind, in the human subconscious, because it's not something that you have consciously. It's something that lives in the back of your head that you have to live in accordance with. And that's what I'm talking about when I say your labels create your liability. But in any case, listening to audiobooks actually gives me like a whole bunch. It opens up a lot of doors because I usually listen to a lot of podcasts, right? When I go for walks, because I'm on contest prep, I have to get 20,000 steps per day. So I have to walk for like 3-4 hours a day, right? And so now it opens up a lot of time because I usually listen to podcasts at that time. But then I was like, I have this goal of reading 52 books in a year. So if I want to get that done and my reading skills in real life take up not only more time, but I also am pretty not very good at reading right now, or at least I am not right now. I believe I can be. But, that just comes from practice. But I can just listen to audiobooks. So I've been listening to audiobooks. I already crushed 2-3 audiobooks in the past 4 days. It's pretty crazy because I have a lot of time, right, to listen to these audiobooks. And so I was listening to Gym Launch Secrets this morning by Alex Hormozi. And he was talking about sales tactics, obviously, because he's a legendary salesman. One of the things that he uses when people are signing up for his program
is you try to make them answer questions in a way that goes against their current psychology in order to make them adopt a new belief, and then you make them take an action step in accordance with that new belief. So what this might look like, for example, is, on a type form or on an application form, someone might say, it might say something like, our team only likes to work with people who are dedicated and will actually show up for appointments. Are you someone that can stick to your goals? Or are you someone that can stay dedicated to your goals? Right? And obviously, no human will say no to that. No human will say no to that, so everyone's going to say yes. But is everyone signing up for this application really someone who's dedicated to their goals? If there's someone who needs help losing weight or gaining weight or losing fat or sticking to their cardio routine, are they someone who sticks to all their goals? No. But in order to get them to adopt a new belief, he gets them to say yes on this application, just in reason, because he's trying to make them adopt a new belief about themselves, right? So it's their belief that they're not really dedicated, but he uses this kind of terminology to make them believe that they are. And then he'll give them an action step to reinforce this newfounded belief, right? So then the action step would look like, click yes and then attach 3 photos, right? So if so, click yes and then move on to the next section, right? So now he interjects the new belief with an action step. And I was thinking about this. I was like, it's the same fucking thing with labels. It's the same thing. Now I know people are going to get offended by this. People are going to get really offended by this, but I don't care. This is what I believe. And this is so fucking true. It's unreal. People with anxiety, people with depression, people with all these mental disorders, fucking insomnia, obesity, people with all these problems, people with low self-confidence, people with low self-esteem, people who struggle to stick to their goals, people who struggle to stick to their diet plan, right? Any of these labels, anything you can label yourself with, is reinforced by a action step and is reinforced by your thought that you are this type of person. I am obese. I am depressed. I have anxiety. You are labeling yourself as someone with this issue. So then what do? What does someone with with one of these mental disorders do? Someone who has anxiety, someone who has depression, usually they'll go see a therapist, right? So that is an action step that allows you to reinforce your current belief about yourself. So now not only are you labeling yourself as someone who has depression or someone who has anxiety or someone who is obese or someone who can't stick to their diet plan, now you're reinforcing it with an action step by going to see a therapist, by having them ask you all these questions about, do you do this or you do that, helping them having to, figure out who you are. And if you can't tell, like, I don't really believe in therapy that much for those kinds of things. I see the value, and if you don't have really someone to talk to in your real life and you need like a friend to kind of spew out your information, spew out your knowledge, kind of talk through and work through your goals verbally, I do that on the podcast. The podcast is therapy for me. But I can see how if you don't have someone in real life, or you don't have an outlet to talk about your goals or to talk about your dreams or to talk about your problems, then I can see how a therapist would be incredibly valuable for someone like that. But I don't see the value in a therapist trying to help you work through a problem that you can't even solve yourself. That makes no sense. If you have depression or if you have anxiety, talking to a therapist is not going to cure you of your labels, right? It's going to make it worse, because they're going to keep reinforcing this belief that you have anxiety, or you have depression, or you are obese. Obesity runs in the family, or you're not someone that can stick to a diet plan, or you're not someone who can eat vegetables, right? All these things are complete bullshit, because you can eat vegetables. I used to not eat vegetables either until I started eating them. Now I can eat vegetables with ease because I started eating them slowly, slowly, 1% progress every single day. Maybe I started with 1 kernel of broccoli. Then the next day I had 2. Next day I had 3. Now I can eat 400 grams of broccoli, no problem. And it causes no discomfort. I'm not intolerant to it anymore. And it's fucking tasty, for lack of a better word. It's not bad. It fills me up and it's really, really good. So if you label yourself as someone who can't stick to a diet plan or someone who can't eat vegetables, and then throughout your day-to-day life, whenever you see a vegetable or you see something that's out of your diet plan, your brain is going to tell you, oh, yep, I'm someone who can't eat vegetables, or, I'm someone that really falls off track on the weekends, and this pizza looks pretty tasty in front of me, so I'm probably just going to eat the pizza, because the strongest force in the human psyche is the need to live in parallel with the person you believe you are. Your labels literally create the liability. The fact that you are labeling yourself as this type of person is the very reason that you are liable to live in accordance, to live in parallel with that very thing, right? Is it not so? Like, honestly, I wish somebody would give me a logical argument to display how this is incorrect, because this is the most insightful. This is the craziest thing, the craziest nuance. I used to label myself as someone with chronic pelvic pain. And this literally created in my head, in my physical body, I felt chronic pain in my lower left quadrant of my pelvis. Then I stopped labeling myself as someone with this issue. I brought myself out of it. I started meditating. I started eating right. I started drinking enough water to actually, you know, have a healthy digestive system. I started not labeling myself with the problem, and the literal physical pain went away. So if I can do this with physical pain, you can certainly do this as someone who labels themselves as, I don't follow my diet plans, or I fall off track on the weekends, or I'm not someone who can get 10,000 steps. Your labels create the liability. All right. It's the same thing with people who say they have obesity, people who say they have anxiety, people who say they have depression. You do not have anxiety. You are just anxious. You do not have depression. You may just be depressed. And it is your brain telling you to make a change in your reality, to change something about your life in order to create a new belief so that you can live in accordance with this new belief, not this old belief where it's like, I have anxiety. This is like a prescription for life. I used to struggle with anxiety too, but I am not someone who has anxiety because I refuse to label myself with something that doesn't serve me. Now, here's another thing. You can certainly label yourself with things that do serve you, right? This is like a positive affirmation, a new belief that you can create through positive affirmations and reoccurring it over and over again in your brain. Like, for example, when I started an online coaching business 3 years ago, I struggled a little bit with imposter syndrome. I really couldn't wrap my head around me being a team leader and having to teach people my knowledge. So I had to reaffirm to myself, I am confident. I am someone who can teach. I am a leader. I am a teacher. I am someone who leads by example and allows people to follow in my footsteps, right? These are positive affirmations. And the funny thing is people are so quick to believe in positive affirmations. People are so quick to believe in this reoccurring thought pattern. But then when it comes to their own problems that they're labeling themselves with, like depression, anxiety, all these things I mentioned previously, they're so quick to say, no, it's not the label. I just have a chemical imbalance. What the fuck are you talking about? Not only can we, first of all, let's get into the science about that really ever so slightly, ever so quickly. We can't even reliably measure serotonin or dopamine levels in the brain. Not only that, but every single person who says that they have a chemical imbalance has never actually gotten a test, because there isn't a test. There is no test for chemicals in your brain. You can't measure serotonin or dopamine levels. And you're going to walk around labeling yourself as someone who has a chemical imbalance. There was a paper, there was what's it called? There was a huge study done, a fucking meta-analysis done about the reliability of the serotonin model in the brain for depression. And it came to the conclusion that there is basically no correlation to people with depression and having a serotonin or dopamine imbalance in their brain. So it is complete bullshit. Not only that, but you are going to label yourself with something in which you haven't even proven to be true. And this is true with almost every single label. Like, I have obesity, I have anxiety, I have depression, I have insomnia, I can't eat vegetables, I don't do this, I don't do that. Of course you don't, because you haven't done it yet. But you can do it. I am not someone who's very good at reading. It doesn't mean I can't read. It doesn't mean my reading comprehension sucks. It just means that I need to improve with reading. I was not a leader in my space. I was not a coach until I believed that I can lead by example, until I believed that I can be someone, of structure, someone of being worthy of following. right? And so your labels create the liability. So be careful labeling yourself. Be careful labeling yourself with I am this, I am that. That's the thing that really kills you. You can say I struggle with eating vegetables. That's still a label, but it's better than I'm someone who can't eat vegetables. So you see the nuance, like the difference. It's so crazy. You can say I've struggled with eating vegetables in the past. Now that's not a label. That's a statement. But if you say, I am someone who struggles with eating vegetables, that is still a label. Now, that label may be less strong than someone who says, I can't eat vegetables. I can't do this. I can't do that. The word can't it pisses me off, actually. It's such bullshit because the only reason you can't seem to do that is because you haven't done it yet. And if you just do the thing, then you will be someone who is capable of doing that thing. And this is true with anything in life, right? I was bad at reading. I may be someone who hasn't always practiced reading in the past, but that doesn't mean I can't read. That doesn't mean I can't learn to read, right? Back before I even ran this whole fitness journey shit to begin with, when I was like 13, 14 years old, I thought I was someone who couldn't get in shape. But then I started working out, I started eating right, I started losing weight, and now I'm someone who can get in and out of shape whenever they want. I can gain weight, I can lose weight. And it's because I've done it so many times, and it's the same thing with these negative affirmations like I have obesity. It's a reoccurring reinforced thought when you look in the mirror every single day and see someone that's obese, or when you eat a piece of fucking chocolate cake every day or a Snickers bar and you're like, yeah, people who are obese, they eat Snickers bars. People who are obese, they eat cake. So even if you are fucking obese, do not label yourself as someone who has obesity, because then it will be that much harder for you to go against the grain and go against your own label to take a different action step in the real world. Because your labels create the liability. So label yourself with whatever you fucking want, even if it's delusional. Like I'm labeling myself as someone who's capable of making $100,000 in a year. Have I ever done that? No. Am I going to do it? Absolutely, because it's my label, and it is the strongest force in the human psychology to live in parallel with the person you believe you are. And the labels create the liability. You are the writer of your own story. You hold the pen, so write the label that you want to live in accordance to. Don't write a label that you don't want to live in accordance to, because that is the strongest force in the human psychology. You are not obese. You are not somebody who is obese, even if you are. You are not, because the person behind the screen, the person behind the sheet of paper, the person watching your avatar, I am Garrett Wolf, right? But I am also the person, not the person, sorry, I am also the entity spectating Garrett Wolf's life. I am two things. Not only am I Garrett Wolf, but I'm also the spectator of Garrett Wolf's reality. And that's my subconscious, that's my psyche, and I can feel the difference. I can feel the two. One of them is reactive. One of them lives in the real world day to day, reacting to his environment. The other one is a subconscious programming that I get to create. And you create this through your labels. You create this through your beliefs. So how are you going to label yourself? All right. That brings us to the end of today's podcast, guys. I hope you got some value. This was just a crazy topic that was on my mind. And, people are so quick to adopt the belief of positive affirmations, but they're so quick to live in accordance with their own self-beliefs of their negative affirmations. Like when you tell someone with depression, when you tell someone with anxiety that it's just because of their labels that they're experiencing this thing, they go all fucking crazy. They go all haywire, but it really is true. I want you to just try and take a step back. I'm not trying to attack you. I'm actually trying to help you. All right, guys, I really hope you got some value out of today's podcast. This is a topic that I'm incredibly passionate about. I don't know if you could tell from the tone of my voice, from the way I got hyped up during the end, but it's really quite a nuance that's made such a difference in my own life. And if you can just adopt this belief, blindly adopt it, just try it, just see what happens. You need to try it for an extended period of time. You can't just do it for a week, 2 week and expect, a crazy difference. You need to adopt this new label and live in accordance with it for a long period of time until you actually get physical symptoms that can, spark this reoccurring thought over and over and over again. I really hope you guys got some value out of today's podcast. You already know the deal. If you did get value, please screenshot my face, share it to your motherfucking Instagram story, and tag me @_Garrett Wolf. I'll reshare that shit to my story, and I'll send you a free motherfucking gift for absolutely no reason. I hope you all I just hit the mic. I hope you all have a great motherfucking fantastic day, and I will see you all in the next podcast episode. Peace, guys.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. Hopefully you got some value. If you did get value and you want to learn a little bit more about how you can go from saggy flabs to six-pack abs, just head over to my Instagram @_Garrett Wolf, DM me the word six-pack, and I'll reach out to you and see if I can help. Again, thank you guys so much for tuning in today, and I will see you all in the next podcast episode. Peace.